Hello everyone, welcome to a new video in our course Basics of School Curriculum. In this video, we will study the elements of curriculum. You know that any curriculum consists of 6 elements, and the appropriate coordination between these elements would guarantee the success of the curriculum. As you see in the figure, the first element of the curriculum is goals and objectives. This element tries to answer the question, why do the students learn? The second element is the content. This element tries to answer the question, what are the students going to learn? The third main element is teaching and learning process. This element tries to answer the question, how are the students going to learn? You should take in consideration that this element contains three sub-elements, which are teaching methods, activities, and teaching resources. The last element is evaluation, which tries to answer the question, how much learn has been achieved by the students. Let's start studying the elements of curriculum by the first one, which is aims, goals, and objectives. What are the factors affecting the formulation of curriculum objectives? All of us agree that the objectives should be formulated on solid philosophical, psychological, sociological, and scientific basis. Let's start with society as one of these factors. Society determines the basic requirements of education. We can't fail to recognize that objectives of education in the broad sense are determined by society at the local community as well as the national level. For instance, there may be such needs as inculcating the democratic values of life and supporting the impact of science and technology and other innovations. Also, social needs and problems are essentially taken into consideration while planning to develop certain competencies and qualities in members of the society, both to develop it and also to survive in it. The second factor is the learner himself. There are certain specific needs of the individual, such as self-development, which encompasses physical and psychological growth of the student. Psychological growth in its turn consists of thinking, which is cognitive, feeling, attitudes, which are affective, and doing, which is psychomotor aspects. The third factor is knowledge. Knowledge has its own categories such as facts, processes, basic ideas, concepts, and so on. The classification and organization of knowledge into systems is known as disciplines or subjects. So we should know that the nature of knowledge or subject is one of the most important consideration in formulating educational objectives. This is so because different disciplines have different bearing on the learning process. Now we have to ask, what are the differences between aims, goals, and objectives? Aims are broad statements which cover all the experiences provided in the curriculum. Goals are tied to specific subjects or group of contents within the curriculum, while objectives describe the more specific outcomes that can be attained as a result of the lesson or instruction delivered at the classroom. What are the characteristics of aims? Aims are general and broad statements that provide a sense of direction and serve as guiding principles for educational policy. They are the translation of the general philosophy and needs of the country. They designed at the national or state level by policy making groups. They based on constitution of the country. Examples of aims: to prepare students for democratic citizenship, to develop a moral character and personal discipline, to strengthen ethical and spiritual values, to teach the rights and duties of citizenship, to encourage creative and critical thinking. Let's move to the second level. What are the characteristics of goals? Goals are what we hope to accomplish in academic levels and teaching subjects. They are medium to long term. They are directed to student achievement. Aims become goals when they become more specific and refer to specific subject area. Goals translate aims into statements that will describe what schools are expected to accomplish. Goals are more specific and definite than aims, but they are still non behavioral and therefore non observable and non measurable. There are many examples of goals, such as use science to explain the natural world, evaluate and understand scientific theories and evidence, investigate and generate scientific explanations, apply the knowledge of science in everyday life through proper use of technology, solve problems which they face by using the scientific method. The third level is objectives. What are the characteristics of objectives? Objectives are specific and clear statements about what students will be able to achieve as a result of instruction. Objectives are stated in observable and measurable terms. Objectives are behavioral in nature and more precise than goals. Objectives are sorted as cognitive, affective, and psychomotor. Examples of objectives: determine the number of protons in elements and compounds with no mistakes. Compare between the plant cell and the animal cell by drawing. Summarize the differences between the plant cell and animal cell. From the previous examples, we can conclude that the ideal learning objectives should include verb that describes an observable action, a description of what the learner will be able to do and under which conditions they will be able to do it, and the performance level they should be able to reach. As you see in the figure, the learning objectives can be classified into three different domains, which are cognitive domain, which related to knowledge, psychomotor domain, which related to skills, and affective domain, which related to attitudes. The cognitive domain aims to develop the mental skills and acquisition of knowledge of the individual. As you see in the figure, the cognitive domain can be classified into 6 levels, which are remembering, in which the student can recognize and recall relevant knowledge from long-term memory. Understanding, the student can construct meaning from oral, written, and graphic messages. Applying, the student can use information in a new way. Analyzing, the student can distinguish between parts, how they relate to each other. Evaluating, the student can make judgments and justify decisions. Creating, the student can put elements together to form a functional whole, create a new product or point of view. The affective domain, it includes feelings, emotions, attitudes, interests, and values that student should possess at the end of instruction. For example, the instructor may want students to choose certain lifestyle over others, or to increase interest in subject area. This domain is rarely addressed. However, it is an important one to consider. As you see in the figure, the effective domain is divided into 5 levels, which are receiving. Learner is willing to pay attention and listen with respect. Responding, learner actively responds and participates. Valuing, places value on a behavior, idea, person, situation. Organization, prioritizes values and resolves conflicts between them. Internalizing values. Value system is internalized and controls behavior. The psychomotor domain includes physical movement, coordination, and use of the motor cycle areas. Development of these skills requires practice and is measured in terms of speed, precision, distance, procedures, or techniques. The seven major categories are listed from the simplest behavior to the most complex. The presented figure describes the definition and verbs for each level, which are perception, set, guided response, mechanism, complete overt response, adaptation, organization. At the end of this video, we can conclude that aims, goals, and objectives are very important elements of science curriculum because they provide direction for the instructional processes. By clarifying the intended learning outcomes, they convey instructional intent to others, like students, parents, and society. They provide a basis for assessing student learning by describing the performance to be measured. Thank you for your attention. I wish you all the best.